I want to show you guys a video that I came across on TikTok this week, because you're going to see a couple that's arguing about something in therapy, and then there's two people down below that are analyzing what's going on. But what's happening in this situation is that they're in therapy, and the therapist is trying to talk about a situation, and she uses a particular word that the guy says is the wrong word. And so as a result of him getting hung up on this word, the conversation now gets derailed. And I thought it was interesting because I'm going to be honest, guys, I am very guilty of doing this, of like, I'm very much a stickler for words and phrases meaning the things that they actually mean. And so I've had to train myself to recognize, oh, this person said this word, that's not actually the correct word, but that's not what they're trying to get at in this argument. And so me being obsessed over this word is not what they're looking for. So let's go ahead and get into this video right here.
Why is the moment where someone is not just right, why is that so devastating?
I don't know that it's devastating. I think it's...
See, you did it just then. Right. Devastating is not quite the right word, and you're going to correct me for devastating, and you can't see that devastating.
That's okay.
Okay, so you hear in the argument, she said that, why is X, Y, and Z so devastating? And he's all of a sudden like, wait a minute, devastating? I wouldn't say that's not the right word. I wouldn't say I'm devastated by the thing. And so he's removing the feeling tone of what she's trying to get at, because the fact that he's being pointed out in this argument, he doesn't subconsciously like that. So now he's going to get hung up on this word to now make the argument about the word being used instead of what she's trying to get at in the argument.
It is simply not.
This is the most frustrating relationship dynamic when you're in a conversation or a confrontation with your partner and you cannot move forward because one of the partners gets hung up on the exact definition of a word or your word choice or the facts or the timeline, and the context of what you're trying to express emotionally gets completely lost.
Yeah, it's like the emotional undertone is overlooked. So it's so trippy. This is a textbook example of overcompensation for a wound of judgment.
Yeah.
And so a person does this because they're trying to avoid any possible rejection. And so the context for him is he's being brought something to look at and be accountable for and vulnerable to. But to deflect from that is he'll nitpick the wording and the words she uses or his wife uses so that he exhausts them.
It derails the whole conversation.
They have a whole grammar definition conversation, and it's so frustrating because the whole meaning of the conversation gets lost, and it makes you want to give up.
Now, what's interesting is both men and women are guilty of doing this, all right? But I would argue that because men particularly, we get very hung up on words mean words, and the things that people are saying should mean the things that they actually are. Because we're the ones that get more frustrated if women say things to us like, oh, I'll totally be there, and then they don't show up. We're more mad that they didn't stay true to their word. And on top of also they flaked on us without letting us know. We get very annoyed when women say one thing and then do another. And it's like, but she said this, it should mean this. So I would argue that guys are typically more guilty of this because we like to think that the words being said are the things being said. But in an argument context, you have to remember that, again, this couple's in counseling because they're having a variety of issues, right? So the woman therapist might not get all the exact words right when she's trying to describe a situation, but she's thinking he's going to be smarter to know that I'm bringing this up in this context because it's going to be something that's important for them to break down. But he is now feeling attacked. So rather than focus on the overall tone of what she's getting at, he's going to focus on, but wait, she was devastating. That's not the word. Now we got to talk about how your word usage is wrong. And what that's going to do is the woman that's sitting there that wants to get things better with him is going to be thinking here he goes again, deflecting the situation over a word. Is it any wonder we can never get anything solved?
So a partner who overcompensates for the wound of judgment will lean toward being emotionally cold in their communication, often coming off as cutting, critical, or even harsh. They can habitually point out errors or deviations even in trivial matters. Their communication style is characterized by unwavering emphasis on correctness and precision, like exactly what he was doing. They will often insist on precise definitions of words, details, and facts, or correct grammatical usage, making their partner feel scrutinized and judged. Even innocent remarks will be interpreted by them as criticism.
Now, again, guys, this is me calling myself out because I grew up in a household where like grammar was important, spelling, punctuation, all that stuff was very, very important to learn, right? And so for most of my life, I have been a guy that has been able to, I've been, the times that I'm sarcastic with people, it was stuff involving like word phrases. Like I'll use a word knowing that it means something else, but I'm using it in this context, so it's funny, right? But I found in previous relationships, when we'd get into arguments, I had to be honest and understand that like when she would be using certain words or phrases, I'd be like, wait a minute, that's not the exact word. What's going on? So I didn't know back then that was me trying to deflect from me feeling like I was attacked. Nowadays, not that ever goes away, but I'm able to recognize, oh, okay, she said this word. Obviously, she meant this word over here, but I'm not going to call her out because this isn't a situation where that's necessary. And I find, as annoying as it is to me to this day to hear when somebody's using a wrong word, I'm also able to recognize not every situation warrants me calling that person out for a specific thing. If there's a moment where you're with your girl and she's like having a heated debate with you and she says something that's like from the heart that maybe she's feeling you did a thing to her or you made her feel a certain way, this is not the time to be like, well, actually, I think you meant this word over here, because it comes off as pretentious. And what she's going to say here is that it makes the guy in that situation, he's feeling dumb. So he's trying to correct her grammar to elevate himself back up to a higher status to where he doesn't feel as dumb, and he's putting himself above her. Again, these kind of situations should be more about you two trying to come to an understanding and a ground where you guys can get back on the same footing versus I'm going to prove that I'm right by correcting you about what you're saying.
That is not a proper use of that word in any of the word. Unless you're being hyperbolic, and I don't know what the point of that would be.
He's using words like, being hyperbolic, because that is a very highly educated word that he's subconsciously throwing out there to say, I use words that are not only are the right ones, but that are probably above what you minions are using right now.
If the point was
clear. Well, isn't being hyperbolic. I'm actually assuming that in some way, I think there's a much more emotional underlying structure to this.
Okay. But how can we quickly determine whether that's true or not?
So as a guy, he's like, okay, let's just figure out the problems. We can get on to the next thing. And hey, as guys, we are built to be problem solvers. So ideally, we want to try to get things solved as quickly as possible. But there are going to be situations, especially when it pertains to like relationships and emotional dynamics, where a fast, quick fix isn't going to solve the problem, especially for her, because she's going to not only want to see you change, but she's going to want to have time and evidence to see that this change is a long-lasting change. So to be like, well, what's the quickest way we can solve this? That's not going to work for her, because you might do it for like one day, but women have been in the experience of a guy will fix a thing for like 1 or 2 times, and then he'll go back to his old ways. So the quick fix isn't the situation here. But again, he's trying to bypass this because he doesn't want to feel like he's being attacked in this situation.
You can ask yourself if you want to take something of what I'm saying to see if it's useful to you, or if you want to spar with me. If you don't want to spar with me, we don't have to discuss the accuracy. We just have to see if it's useful, what I'm saying, whether it's accurate or not.
I don't know how to do that.
He doesn't know how because he's never healed his judgment wounds.
Now that says, I can't read the screen here. It says, overcompensating judgment is a disguise for low self-esteem. By pointing the finger at others, they keep the spotlight off themselves in order to appear perfect and always right. They point out flaws in their partner, even their wrong use of words. Now, that's an important one because, on this channel, I get a lot of comments under my videos, and I got a lot of letters from guys. And most of my videos, I try to say, look, women have their issues, and they got to definitely deal with that in a better way as it pertains to them dealing with men and getting the men they want. But this channel is for guys. So I'm on here to try to help you guys take some self-ownership of how you're reacting and responding to things. And that said, I will have guys come on here, well, it's just that all women are crazy and they need to do a better job. And when they do pull away this and when they say this thing and they just need to blah, blah, blah. And it's like, again, I've never at once said that women couldn't do better, but they're not the ones primarily watching this show. So if you're a guy coming to me, I'm going to say, hey, here's how you can handle these situations. Here's what you can do next time you're in front of a woman to maybe attract them better, or how you can be a better listener, or what to do when they start to like pull away a bit. And so for you to respond like, oh, but it's all their fault. You can be in victim land all day long. Women aren't going to care, and it's not going to make them attracted to you. So your better bet is to say, okay, we know women have flaws, but you're the common denominator in all the relationships up to this point that have or have not worked out. If you find it's like 10 or 12 women that you've asked out and they've all said no, or you've gone on dates with them and then they want to flake after that, it's not just them, you know? I had a comment that I was going to get to later, but there was a guy, I did a video last week. Let me see what it was. I did a video last week where, it was a video where I talked about women that are doing this TikTok trend of dancing to their ex-boyfriends' messages, and how like these exes of theirs are like leaving these messages like, oh, you stupid B, and this is that, and I hate your guts, or they're like crying their eyes out. And so the guy left a comment, and the comment was, where was it? Oh, here it was. He said, I'm not accusing these women of anything, but from past experience, I know a woman can be as evil as she wants to a man, and it's okay. But as soon as we react, we are the bad person. I would like to see the other side of the story. We have no idea what these women did that made these men so mad. And my response to that basically is like, yeah, to this point, we don't know what those women did, but I don't care about what the women did that made these men mad. I care about the fact that these men felt like the reaction they needed to have was to call these women up and be mad at them on the phone and yell at them and scream things and obscenities. Like, even if the women, all the women on all of TikTok that are dancing to their exes' messages, they all somehow were all actually the bad guys. What matters is, why did the guys feel the need to react like that? And it's because they're in the victim mode of putting the blame all the time on women and that they should know better. I'm going to correct them, this and that. And again, that does not attract women. You yelling at women that used to be around for you and aren't anymore doesn't make them want to come back to you, and it doesn't make you look like the winner in the situation. So it goes back to, again, guys, you got to understand that you may be feeling that all women are crazy, and when you get in an argument with your girl, that it's all her fault, or you don't want to be attacked. So rather than focus on what the situation is, you're going to get tripped up on words that you can deflect to as a way of saying, like, we should focus on this word that you said instead of what I actually did. Like, again, none of these things are going to help you get women. And I am all about making sure that you are in control of yourself. So that way, when situations arise that maybe aren't to your liking, you know how to handle them better. Whether it's a woman flaking on you or whether it's you're in an argument with your mate. Hey, I don't like when I'm in a relationship and the woman I'm dating comes to me and says, hey, Harry, just so you know, like, this thing bugged me, or you said this thing the other day, and I don't think you meant to hurt me, but it did. Like, I don't like those situations either, because I like to think I'm the hero of my own story. I'm a great guy all the time. Realistically, I know that's not true, but like, we're going with that theory, right? I will still be able to say, okay, from that person's perspective, whatever they're saying is their reality of how I was to them. I need to understand that more. And then I can have the time where I explain where I was coming from, but also understand that doesn't take away from how it made them feel. And then be like, hey, you know what? My bad, babe. You know what? I see how that could hurt your feelings. You know, I'll try to do better in the future. Like, there's nothing inherently wrong with you as a guy owning up to or being able to say, hey, I was part of the problem. Can we go forth and figure this out? Okay. That makes you a better partner. And that makes you a guy that is understanding that, hey, as good of a guy as you're trying to be, there's going to be times where you're just not that guy for that person. I mean, in terms of like, you're trying to be the best you can, but for whatever reason, you misread what their need was, and now you said something or did something that wasn't to their liking. We're all going to make mistakes in relationships. That is totally fine. What is not fine is to act like that never happens, and that you're always perfect, and that they're the always ones that are crazy, and that you got to now deflect off because you don't like the way it feels. It's never going to feel good to be called out. But if you learn to take that less personally and learn that that's just a stepping stone to having a better relationship, if you're able to handle it in the correct way, then you won't end up like this guy where he says he doesn't have the skill set. And to be fair, a lot of us grow up where we don't have that skill set. I've been having interesting conversations lately where I've come to understand that the way in which I grew up is dramatically different from a lot of people, in that, you know, my dad died, but so I had a mom in the household that was willing to sit me, her, and my brother down when we had conflicts and say, okay, let's everybody talk out what they're feeling. Okay, here's what was your viewpoint of what happened. Okay, here's what my viewpoint was. How can we now handle this? Like, because I grew up with that kind of training, that's how I go into relationships when I'm having arguments. I don't take things personally. I'm able to talk it out. And I'm realizing a lot of people aren't of the understanding of that because they didn't actually have that skill set, because most people probably have parents in the household that also, A, don't treat them like adults, like they're like, you're just the kids who get the freak away, but also aren't even aware of themselves of how to have these kind of conversations in a real way that where everybody can be heard and not be hurt. And so if you didn't grow up in that kind of household, that doesn't take away from it's your job to learn those skills. You can't blame mom and dad for not having the skills to teach you. There are books out there. There's internet. There's people like me. There's YouTube videos. There's no reason to be bad at conflict resolution. But if you are, again, that doesn't excuse you from when you get into a situation. You can't go to your significant other and be like, oh, I'm sorry, I never learned conflict resolution when I grow up. Well, you're grown up now. Learn it. Is the easiest way to not have as many fights, to be more understanding of your significant other, and more importantly, for them to want to also be understanding of you because they see the work you're putting into understanding them. So this video goes on a lot longer, but you can find it on TikTok. But suffice to say, I just wanted to show that because I just thought it was a really great video that I thought you guys could learn from.
You's a bad boy, but you can't stop, won't stop. You a high earning, high value, high class man. You a high earning, high value, high class man. You a high earning, high value, high class man. You a high class man. You a high class man. You a high earning, high value, high class man.